Welcome to my tutorial series on Blender 2.9. It's mainly 2.8 and above. I'm running through for you guys a quick sort of basics of Blender, getting used to the UI of it, getting used to the shortcut commands, as well as creating your first sort of model. What I'm basically going through is creating a coat can, and that's from start to finish. That's modeling, UV unwrapping, and texturing at the end. And this will basically run through a lot of the main modeling principles. It will go through the main sort of tools that you'll use to model, which will take you on further to advanced stuff when you go to it. You'll still be using the same sort of principles and same sort of tools at that stage. So this right here is the Blender UI. This is what you get when you first load into a general state. So you get your cube, you got your light, and you got your camera. With this project, I'm going to scrap that for now. So I'm going to use A, and that selects everything in the scene. And I'm going to press delete and just get rid of that because we don't need that for now. So, quick navigation tips, just to get used to Blender itself. Middle mouse button, click down, is your rotating around the axis point. If you hold shift and then the same button, middle mouse button again, that's your pan. That can drag you around and you can look around like that. And again, very intuitive, but middle mouse button mouse scroll in and out is zoom. So that's that boring stuff out of the way. What I'm going to show you first is how to insert a primitive. So this keyboard command will help you import a primitive, help you bring in cameras, lights, basically anything you want to add to your scene. And that key is Shift A. And that brings up this little menu, the add menu. Like I said, you bring cameras, lights, armatures for rigging and that sort of stuff. But today we're just going to go through mesh and bring in your list of primitives. A primitive is basically your basic shapes that you go off and you create your models from. So today we're doing a coat can. So you think, coat can, what do we want? What's the closest shape we can get to that? So I'd say a cylinder. I don't think there's any sort of argument against that. So we've got a cylinder, we brought that in there, and that's it all sorted in the space. Now obviously we can't edit the individual polygons because we are in a mode called object mode, and that basically selects an entire object, and you can't edit it, individually. You can just you can pick it up and you can scale it, but you can't edit it any more precisely in this mode. So the way to change into the other mode called edit mode is tab, and you can see now, you can see all of the individual vertices there. If I press 1, you can see the vertices. If you press 2, it highlights all the edges. Press 3, it's all the faces. So again, I'm in face mode now with 3, and I'm clicking and selecting each face. 2, I can select the edges. And 1 vertex mode, you can select each vertex, and the vertex is basically the corner. It's where 2 edges will meet. So you can see there, one edge, vertex in the middle. Cool. So that's your edit mode, and this is our basic sort of bringing in a shape and knowing how to edit it from each side. So like I said, if you selected this top shape, and you wanted to move it around, you could do that like that. So quickly before I bring in the reference image and we'll start working on modeling the coat can. One more thing I'll show you is the transform tools. So transform is all to do with the space that the model is in. So it regards to the rotation of it, the location and the scale of it. So I'll show you each keyboard command for that because we'll be using this a lot when modeling. So the first one is move, or location. And how to change that is the G key. If you press that once, and now you're in move mode. You can move that face you've selected. So if I Control Z, that select that one, G, I'm moving just that face. And that is isolated, just like that. So the next one would be scale, and that's with S. Press your face, press S, and so you can scale that in relation to itself, just there. So I can have a little cone sort of thing going there. Cool. And the last one is rotation. So if you press R for rotation, you can see now, obviously it goes a bit skew-if, but you can rotate things, get this funky shape. And that is that. With each of these transform tools, you can lock these to a certain axis. So if I wanted to rotate this top bit here, but only on the Z axis, the up and down, if I pressed R and then Z, you can see here, I'm only rotating it, twisting it, because it's locked with that blue line, the Z axis line, it's locked to the Z axis. And the same as if I were to do it to rotate an X, it's on the X axis now, tipping it like that, and it's only locked it to that, and once again R, Y, like that. And you can see I've manipulated this cylinder, locking to axes, and it's a good way to get sort of accurate turns and exact 45-degree angles, that sort of stuff. So the same thing applies with each of those transform tools. So scale Z, it doesn't work on this one, but scale X, it only does it on the X axis. Scale Y, only on the Y axis. And same with G for moving. Move it on the Z axis, move it on the X, move on the Y. Cool. So that is mainly our navigation tools sorted and covered. So what I'm going to show you now is bringing in a reference image, and then we'll start modeling this Coke can and get it, on its way. So the best way I like to work is if I use on the keypad, you have your numbers 1 to 9. And each corner key, so 1, 3, 7, and 9, they are linked up to the sort of side views. So if I press 1 on the keypad, that put me to the side, 3 the other side, 7 the top, and 9 the bottom. And this really helps to get like accurate workflow and get an accurate sort of model in place. And you can sort of make very accurate increments on the grid and that sort of stuff. Very useful tool, and you'll use it quite a lot once you get to use Blender quite a lot. So, sorry. What I'm going to do now is I'm in this mode. I pressed 3 to get into this one. I'm in my side view. What I want to do now is I want to go to my desktop and go to, where have I put my stuff? There, I've got my Coke can reference here. And what I'll do, get that file up. And the great thing about Blender is it's literally a case you can drag and drop. So if I select this, my Coke can here, and drag it in, I've popped it in there. And where is he? There he is. Cool. So I've selected that, and that is in my space. Now you can see here with this yellow dot, that orange dot just there, that indicates the center of the object. And you can see that's not quite in the center of the space. We want to be, when you're working in 3D, you want to work towards your 0. So keep everything to 0 as much as you can whilst you're modeling. It just saves you, a lot of time later down the line. So we want to scale this back to 0. And what we'll do here, make it a really easy process. Select it. Should be on this object properties down here. Should already be selected, so don't worry about that. Go to location and set all of those to 0. And now you can see that little yellow dot is right in the center there. And we want to do the same with this now, because we want to, we want to get reference from this and scale this to the right size and get it to the right area. So again, select that one, 0, 0, 0. And now they're both directly in the center of the space. So from here, my first step is I want to get this relatively the right size, in comparison to this Coke can. I want to get the same size as the Coke can. So I'm going to scale it with S and bring it up just until it's about the right size. So I'm going to say about there. And so that's the width done. That is the right sort of diameter of your Coke can now. But with this now, obviously we want it to be taller. It's not tall enough. So we want to scale that up. But we only want to scale it on the Z-axis. We only want to scale it up and down. We don't want to scale out anymore because we've got the perfect size already. So if you press S, like we did earlier, S and then Z, that locks it to the Z-axis. And you can see now it scales it only on the Z. And we want to bring this right up to the top and bottom of the can. About there, I'd say. Cool. So you'll find an issue with this now is that you can't see your reference image anymore. You can't see what you're going off anymore. So a cool little trick for that, cool little tool we've got in Blender is called the X-ray tool. And what that does is it basically makes your model partially transparent, so you can see through it, and you can see your reference image behind it. So if you press Alt and then Z, you can see now that we're in X-ray mode. Alternatively, up in the top corner here, this button with the two squares overlapping each other, that is your X-ray button. I like to teach keyboard commands just because, once you get into a workflow, you gain this muscle memory and you start your workflow is a lot quicker once you get used to using keyboard commands and that sort of stuff. So we've got this now, and what we want to do is we want to bring ourselves back into edit mode because we want to start putting some cuts in and we want to start bending stuff and getting stuff into the right space and relatively the right size for our code can. So the next tool I'm going to show you guys is the loop cut. And what that will do is that will cut a loop around the entire object. Depending on how complex your model is and make sure your edge flow and things is fine, you can put this on anything. But because it's a cylinder, this can be so much easier to do. So if we press Control R, and if you're on a Mac, Command R, you see now you've got this yellow line here. Let's see if I were to click it in, you can see it there. And that is where our cut is going to go. Obviously, I'm going to get rid of that one. I'm going to do Control R again and just put it in. But I'm going to use the mouse wheel. I'm going to scale it up. So now we've got two very equal cuts. So each of those spaces in between the cuts is exactly the same size because it equally spaces these cuts out. So I can add as many of these as I want. I keep going and just add millions. Obviously, we don't want that because you want to keep your poly count low. So I'm going to put 2 in for now because I got 2 bends I want to work with. So I double click that. You see, I've got this bend up top here, and I've got this one down here. And I want to make sure they are in the right place. And if I don't, this middle section isn't bending at all, so I don't need to worry about putting any more cuts in there. So what I need to do is I need to move this line up to the top here where this bend is. So I'm going to show you some selection tools now. So if you press 2 and go into edge mode, if you hold Alt and I'm going to click this line, I've selected that entire loop there. Whereas, if I just clicked it once or shift clicked it or whatever, it's just that one segment. We want the entire thing, so we want to affect the entire thing. So Alt and click. Now if I press G and Z, because I just want to go up, I don't want to worry about getting any skew if angles or anything. If I free-handed this, it would be a bit, it just wouldn't look quite right. You can see that bend. We don't want that. So G and Z, pull that up until where I think the seam is. So I'm going to say about there. Yeah, about there. Cool. Now, obviously, we want to get this taper in. Now, obviously, from here, we want to bend that and getting that angle. So you want to have your edge selection with 2 selected. Again, like we did a second ago, Alt and click that top one, right at the top. And we want to scale this in. Because we don't want to scale it to a certain axis, we just want to literally just press S. And that'll just solely bring it in very equally. And get it, you ain't got to get it perfectly right, but as long as it's a good angle. So I'm going to say about there for me. I'm down with, yeah, that's good with me. So that should be equally placed on each side. Now, I put this Coke can too high. I put the top of this going too far because we want to work with this lip in a second. So, if I press G and Z, I'm going to bring it down to the bottom of where this lip is. So about there. Perfect. And you can see now, if I go out of X-ray mode, it's very slowly starting to take shape. So, what we want to do, we want to create that lip now. And there's different ways you could do it, but the easiest way I've found is using a tool called Extrude and in Extrude. And I will go through those now. And they're very important tools, and you'll use them all the time when modeling. They're very important. So, what you want to do is you want to press 3, and that's your face selection. And you want to select this top shape here, this top face, because that's the one I'm going to be pulling up. So now if we go back into our 3 mode and go to the side, if you press E on the keyboard, press it once, you're now in extrude mode, and you've got this face that you're pulling out. So we want to pull this to about the top of the lip here, about there. And you can see now we've got this little extra bit of geometry poking out. Obviously, this isn't a lip yet because it's just a flat top again. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the pretty much inverse effect of the extrude, and it's called the inner extrude. And what that will do is that will create a face within this face. Best way to do it is to show you really. So if you press I on the keyboard, that's your in extrude key, and then start bringing it in, you can see it's creating this sort of shape within the shape, and it's equally dispersing all the geometry on the edges, and it's all working very nice and lovely, and it all looks very nice. So we want to get a nice little lip. So I'm going to say about there. That's good with me. So this is going to be our lip. And what we'll do again, if you guessed it, is we're going to extrude this again, this face, but we're going to pull it in this time. So if you press E and then just start dragging, and you see we've now got this nice lip that we've been looking for. So you can see there, all nice and lovely. Now, if this was a real Coke can, obviously you'd cut yourself on these edges because they're just so sharp. You've got these jagged little edges, and it's just a straight 90-degree angle up and down. So we're going to use a tool. In other 3D modeling softwares, it might be called chamfer, but in Blender we call it bevel. And this basically creates more. It creates a polygon with between an edge, in layman's really, and it basically smooths out sides and gives you more of a rounded look to things. So we want to get that bevel along these two edges. So like we did before, if you alt click that, and we've selected that loop, but we want to select multiple loops now. So the easiest way to do that is keep holding down alt, hold shift this time, and then click your next one, and that selects both. So now we've got our edges selected. What we want to do is bevel it. And the easy thing with that, the great thing about Blender is that all of the keyboard commands are pretty much synced up to like kind of relevant keys. So like I said, extrude begins with E, it's the E key. Inner extrude is an I, inner extrude. That sort of R for rotations, S to scale. I don't know why transform is G, but that's just how they seem to like it, so I'm not going to complain. So we've got these face edges selected, and what we're going to do is Control and B. And see now it's bringing us into our little edit mode again. If you drag it, you can see we're creating these little beveled edges. And this is the smoothest we want. We want that sort of rounded look. And again, the same as the cut tool, and a lot of these tools are very similar. If you use your mouse wheel, you can create more detail. So I can go, and create all these crazy amounts of detail, but we don't need that because this is a game asset. We're making this for a game. So I'm going to say, I'm going to cut it once, twice, about twice. It's fine with me. So about, we want a bit of that top still, so I'm going to say about there. And you can see now, we've got this rounded lip at the top. And that's exactly what we were looking for. So, that is that top bit. Pretty much, basic geometry, basic blocking out sorted. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to move to the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing. So, go to mirror mode, X-ray mode, sorry. And you can see now, we've got this lip down here as well. The difference is with this one, you can see it comes in and then it changes again and sharply comes back out again. So we want to simulate that in this. And what we want to do, like we did before with the top one, we're going to alt select with the edge selection mode on, G and Z, and bring that down to about here. So about the end where you want to have that first crease. And what we want to do, obviously the best way to get this other crease in is do the same we've done earlier. So we're going to get a loop cut. So like we did before, Control R, click that once, because we only want the one, but we want to be able to move this now. When I said double click earlier, that's just to, affirm it in, because with the loop cut, the first stage is obviously having it highlighted where you want to have it, like that sort of stuff. Click it once, it's there, but you're moving it now, you've got it selected. And then the third click is keeping it in, it's affirmed it. So, if you place it where you need to place it, so I'm going to say about here, because you see that's where that next bend is. We want to start working with this now. So I'm going to select, like we did on the top, select the bottom, complete bottom of it. I'm going to scale that in to about there. So that's about the same width of that. And then with this one, I'm going to scale this in to about there. So you can see now it's very rough. Obviously, it's very sharp because we're going to do some more detailing in a minute. But we've pretty much got the basic shape coming there. So if I come out of that view, you can see now the shape is coming together. This looks like a Coke can now. You can pretty much see where we're coming at this from. So what we want to do, very similar to the top, sorry. We're going to do this bottom face over here. And by the way, if you want to come out of this side view, all you got to do is literally rotate the camera and you're out of it. So back into edit mode. I'm going to go into face mode. I'm going to select this one like we did the top. I'm going to press I to invert, inner extrude, sorry. Bring that in to about there. I'm going to E to extrude and bring that up a little bit. But the difference is with this one, we ain't got to have this flat. At the bottom of the Coke can, it's very bulbous. It's bulged out. So that's the effect we want to go for. So if we brought this up now, if we S scale that, bring that in a little bit, only about that much. Inner extrude once more. Bring it about there. I'm going to G, Z and bring that up. I'm bringing this in one more time. G, Z and bring that up. So now you've got that sort of concaved look there, which is what we're going for. Because that's how the bottom of the Coke can usually is. So for me now, I'm more than happy that my geometry is where I need it to be. And that I don't need to follow my reference image anymore. You can keep the reference image if you want to, but I don't feel like I need it anymore. So I'm going to click that and press delete. You can also press X to delete. But you can also press your delete key. So there we go. We've got our Coke can, very basic Coke can there. So what I'm going to do now with this is I'm going to start detailing the edges. Because you know, see here, we've got a lot of sharp corners and a lot of straight edges. And in real life, there's no straight edges. You know, it's not how it works. Everything's got a bevel to it. Everything's got a curve to it. Nothing's perfect. So what we want is we want to bevel this edge to make it a lot more rounded and smooth. So again, like we've done before, edge selection, Alt click and select the entire thing. Now you've got that selected, you want to do Control B. I'm going to bevel this. Not too much, because obviously we don't want to have a really rounded thing like that. It's not a Coke bottle, it's a Coke can. So I'm going to have it quite tight in there. I'm going to go for 3, I think it's 3, yeah, 1, 2, 3, about that. And I'm going to have that about there. So you can see now we've got this curve. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for this one down here. Alt select, Control B, curve it about there. And again, with this one, because it has got a slight bend to it, Control B, about there. Cool. So I've got more detail on this can now. So you can see these are highly denser areas of polygons just because that's where we have our detail linked to. And that's all good. So this is a very good game ready asset. Obviously, you could do this more low poly if you want. You could do it more high poly. It all depends on what you're using it for. But for the time being, this works perfectly fine. So what we'll do is, again, what we did with the top. Bevel these edges with Alt click and in edge mode. Control B, bevel. Oh, wrong one. Control B. I'm going to do less on this one. So I'm going to only do 2 cuts because it isn't going to be beautiful. Like that. There we go. And there we have it. That is pretty much the Coke can mesh nearly done. What I need to do now is optimize it and make sure it's ready and there's as least issues with it as possible. There's multiple issues you can run into with modeling. There's a thing called N-gons, which I'll go through now, and and preparing stuff to be UV unwrapped and that sort of thing. So I'll go through N-gons really quickly with you guys. So an N-gon is any face that has more than 4 edges or vertices. 3D doesn't like anything more than 4. I need to look into why, but I just know it doesn't like it. So you can do triangles and you can do squares, polygons and tries, but anything more than 4, it will really not like. So you can see here, this one, this is a lot more than 4. If I press 1 and you can see the vertices, each one of those is your vertice. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 there. And then we've got all these on the edge. So the game engines that you bring these into are really not going to like these faces at all. So we need to fix that. And the best way to fix it is to merge your vertices. And what I mean by that is that if we bring in, it will bring in more tries, but it won't have this engon. It's hard to explain. It's better to me to show you. So if you have this selected and you press 3 to go into face mode, select your face, press 1, and you're in vertice mode. We're going to press I to inset that, and we're going to bring this right in. And what we're basically going to do is we're going to merge all of these into one vertice. So this face will not exist. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press X, delete faces with that one selected. So now we've got a hole in the top of our can. And what we're going to do now is Alt, click that. Oh, there you go. Select all of those. You can either right click and go down to merge vertices, or you can press M, and we're going to merge at center. And you can see now, going from however many vertices that was, it's 1. And when we come to UV unwrap and bring this into the game, this is, the engine's going to like this so much more, just because it's done in the right way and it's optimized for, 3D in general. So if you've noticed already, if you haven't jumped the gun already, we've got the exact same thing down here. So we need to do the exact same thing. So we're going to Alt select that face, delete the face, select that, M at center. So now if I were to do a loop selection, you can see there it goes all the way up to the side and to this like sort of pole. So it's like north and south pole. And for cylinders and things, that is the most optimized way to have it working. So that is pretty much our Coke can modeled. So what we want to do now is, obviously it doesn't look too pretty at the moment. It's very, you can see the individual polygons. It's all very jittery and just doesn't look great. So what we want to do from here is we want to shade this smooth and make it look, a bit nicer. So all you need to do is have it in object mode. Remember, tab is to switch between object and edit mode. And you want to be in object mode. You want to right click it and shade smooth. So obviously it's not going to look great. You're going to have these weird looking shader issues and things. And there's a way to fix that. So if you select it, go down to here, to object data properties, go to normals, and just tick this box. And you can see now it's sorted all that out. And you've got this nice, smooth, lovely looking Coke can. And that is pretty much the basics of 3D modeling that you will do. We'll go into more. I'll do some more videos later on, doing some more advanced 3D stuff, looking into subdivisions, looking into sculpting, that sort of stuff. But for the time being, getting you guys started on a 3D model, this is a great one because we've done extrude, inner extrude, loop cut, all your transform tools that you've just learned, and just generally using Blender to start with. So this sort of can is a great way to sort of get you guys used to the software in general. So that's it for this one. But with the next video, I'll be doing UV unwrapping, which I'll go into more detail when we get to that one on the next episode. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you soon.